Hello, Spiritual Center Spokane. This is Reverend Bonnie, and today is Tuesday, July the 22nd. And today's talk and practice is pre-recorded as I am on the road. So, welcome. It is so good to have you here. As I shared in the last several sessions that we've been together, I am really fascinated right now with the concept of living the last chapter of life, of the initiation into elderhood and into what this means spiritually. And so, as I have been praying, meditating, contemplating, and really investing my attention in the unfolding of this understanding, I have been reminded of the work that my friend Toni Boehm has done in her book, Spiritual and Emotional Maturity. And this is different than the natural unfolding that happens, I believe, in our soul as we are entering into that last quadrant, segment, experience of our life's journey. This piece of work that Toni has put together is about ways to evaluate ourselves for spiritual maturity. And because this is so important and not talked about enough, I am going to spend the next several weeks talking about spiritual maturity with the hope that you can self-reflect on these different competencies, these different benchmarks, and see where you would like to ripen more or what calls you forward in your path. And for some of you, this will be a refresher, meaning that you've already lived most of this out and you understand exactly what I'm saying. And for others of you, this might be brand new information that calls your soul into a deepening process. And either way, I'm so thrilled to talk about this. Now, what's interesting is in the last several videos I've done, I've name dropped, I brought up my friends' names, one of them being Rhonda Britton, who you've heard a lot about, and she comes up again tonight as I speak of Toni Boehm's work, Toni also being a friend. And what I want to say before I get too far into this is that while driving over here, I listened to Mel Robbins' new podcast as she's interviewing a man named Will Packer, excuse me. And he is a very well-known movie producer. And his interview was interesting because he says what I know to be true, and I know you'd know to be true. And that is that there are two different kinds of people in life. One is someone who accentuates your brilliance, your gifts, your life force, and then the other that diminishes or drains you. And so he says, of course, choose to have in your life those who accentuate, not drain you. And so, as I mention these names, I do so because I think my superpower and I think my wealth is in my relationships. I have got the most amazing friends in my inner circle who I am more of me because of them, and they are more of them because of me. There's a beautiful synergistic dynamic that happens between us. And I highly recommend that if you have anyone in your inner circle that drains you, not that's going through a rough time that you're showing up for, but literally their way of being in the world is one of draining, take them from your inner circle and move them out or move them out. But there's something magical about being more of yourself because you're around people who can see you, know you, and reflect you back to yourself. And I am fortunate to have those kinds of people in my life. So I'm going to talk about the first four competencies of Toni's spiritual maturity. And she has 19 of them. So we'll be talking about this for a little while. And the first one is the ability to set intentions and live intentionally. And the first time I heard about intentional living was through Rhonda Britton in her book, Fearless Living, 25, 30 years ago. I can't remember when it was written, but it was very progressive information for me. And the difference between living intentionally and living expectantly is huge. So in Rhonda's book, she does a brilliant, brilliant job of explaining the difference between intention and expectation. And so I'm going to share with you my understanding of that. I haven't picked up her book in a while, so I do know that I was first introduced by this through her, and I also know I've now lived it, so I can speak to it from that place. Intention is living internally, expectations are external. So intentions are internal, expectations are external. So Toni says one of the first forms of spiritual maturation or maturity is to be able to set an intention for your day and to live it out. So, Reverend Michael Beckwith speaks all the time about living a non circumstantial life. When you're living via circumstances, that means that you're letting your emotional and spiritual self be whipped around based upon if you like something or don't like something. So if something happens in your life that you don't like, then you're unhappy. If you like it, then you're happy. And you go up, down, up, down, up, down. And we call that moody. So one of the first things in learning to manage your own energy in order to be the regulator of your own life is to learn how to set an intention in the beginning of a day and live that intention out through the entire day. So I woke up this morning and I set the intention of productivity. So today is going to be a productive day for me. And so what I knew is that by the end of the day today, I want to have experienced from the inside out having produced. And in this case, I am producing this video and I'm writing and I'm reading and preparing a talk and I'm doing all kinds of production related things. So I set the intention of producing. So if there's a circumstance that pulls me away, I get to say to myself, Bonnie, you intended production, come back to center. Okay. My witness beauty everywhere I go and within everyone I meet. My intention for a day could be to give, to give compliments, to give thanks, to give financially, to take a friend out for a meal, to practice giving. So I get to decide what the word or the phrase or the experience is for the day, and I get to live that out. That's intentional living. So I want to use an example of this. I shared with you recently that I went to small claims court and that I didn't win, and I felt angry and devastated for a good 12 hours or so. Maybe not that long, but it was a while. And that's because I set the expectation that I was going to win. Expectation is external, not internal. So external expectation means that the entire universe is going to orchestrate itself so that I have a win. And that's not how the universe works. Darn it, it's not how it works. So expectation is external. I expect to get this job. I expect that this person will love me. I expect that I will lose a certain amount of weight. Okay, expectation is an external validation of self. Intention is internal. So had I intended when I went to court to show up, speak the truth, and put on the record my experience, then no matter what the outcome was, I did that. And the feeling tone of what I experienced could have been vastly different if I owned that intention for myself instead of expecting something externally. So intention and expectation are vastly, vastly different things. So here's another example. If I expect someone to like me, I meet somebody and I expect someone to like me, then I get disappointed if they don't. If I intend to show up fully as myself and to witness the other person as themselves, it may or may not be a fit, but it doesn't impact my value in any way because I am coming from full me. So Tony's spiritual maturation, spiritual maturity says that number one, you have the ability to set intention and live that intention out through the day. Now, this is groundbreaking on a spiritual journey because you're beginning, when you're able to do this, to take the power from some worldly external thing and you're able to internally have your own power validate your expression through the day. So it's very spiritually mature and beautiful. Okay, that's number one. And so let's just take a moment so you could take a few notes if you desire. And if you have questions or thoughts, go ahead and put them in the comments. And I'm so excited to be teaching this stuff. I'm so excited. Okay. So the second competency for spiritual maturation is the ability to witness. Now, I wrote about this in the blog for this week, is the ability to stand witness. And when you can stand witness, this goes along with number one, where you can have the awareness that something bigger is going on in your life, something bigger is happening, and it isn't personal. So this is the ability to have the idea of witnessing is that we're able to witness ourselves and have self-observation. So I can watch myself as I'm engaged in witnessing someone else. So an example of this is, excuse me, witnessing. I witnessed my grandson learn how to swim, and it changed his life. He had a skill and a competency that he was so proud of that I watched his self-esteem expand and go up 2 or 3 notches. His ability to successfully swim was huge. Okay. So I had the ability to witness his ability to swim. Okay, that's on the literal level. He couldn't before and now he can. So I had the ability to watch competency take place, but I also had the ability to watch the esteem in him rise. And when I did that, I was able to see him and I was able to watch something beautiful happen within him And I was awake and aware enough to not make it about me. Okay. I was able to witness something beautiful separate from me. And I was able to witness what happened inside of me, the self-observation part, where there was this incredible welling up of joy. So I could see what was happening outside of me and witness what was going on inside of me and recognize those two were connected, but that they they are separate. They are connected and separate. He had his own experience that was spectacular. I had my own experience that was spectacular, and the two were connected. But there was a time I wouldn't be able to see that in him. The spiritual maturation is my ability to self-observe, is to be able to have that observation of self. And another example of this would be what I wrote about in the blog is that there's a woman who so wanted to cry for the girls who died in the flood in Texas. And this was such a holy moment for me when I stood witness to this, because I heard the internal voice, the spirit voice inside of me that said, somebody needs to cry for the girls. So this woman felt moved to cry, but was afraid to cry because she was afraid that if she let the tears flow, they would never end. And so the emotion was so big that there was a concern that if I cry, this will never end. And there was a knowing inside of me, since we are all connected to the one, and there's only one of us here, that some aspect of the holy self needed to cry for these girls in the flood. So this was an interesting experience for me because I was keenly aware that I was witnessing this woman who was having this struggle. And I was noticing how it touched me, and I was open to the voice of the presence of God within me all at the same time. And they weren't clouded or confused or intertwined in it or screwed up in any way, because all of the pieces of it were so clear. And that's the ability to be able to witness someone else and be observant of self. And the observance of self is also the ability to know or discern when to act and when not to act. So witnessing is different than action. It's the holy within me, holding the high watch for the holy within another. So we have now got, for spiritual maturity, the ability to set and keep an intention and to know the difference between an intention and an expectation. The second thing is the ability to witness another and to self-observe. And then the third sign of spiritual maturation is that your yeses are yeses and your nos are nos, and those are complete sentences. Excuse me, while I move my leg. Those are complete sentences. So when I say yes, it means yes. When I say no, it means no. And there's no need to justify. And there's no need to have a big, long story behind it. And there's no need to prove you're right or okay. A yes can be a yes, and a no, a no. And that is a full sentence and sufficient in itself. And so when I first experienced this, I was in my 20s and I was working at the Greater Seattle Chamber of Commerce, and I was putting on events. And I put on this big, huge, large, gigantic event where Jean Anderson was the speaker. And at that point, she did the Channel 5 News in Seattle. Uh, uh, a lovely human being and a very well-respected journalist. And so she was to show up, and I'm making this part up because I don't remember the time, but let's say she was supposed to show up at 7:30 and the event started at 8. So I don't remember the timing, but what I do know, she wasn't there at 7:30. And what I also know was she wasn't there at 8. And yet she wasn't on to speak till like 8:15. So 8:07, she comes running in and she was checking in just like all the participants did. She came to check in. And I said, why are you late? That is hilarious now that I look back on it. And she looked at me and said, it doesn't matter. I'm here now. And I looked at her and thought, oh my God, that is power. She did not owe me an explanation. She did not need to tell me that there was a lot of traffic. She did not need to say a child was sick or that she had to stop by the store and get coffee. Whatever the story is, there was no story necessary. She just said, I'm here now. Where do I go? I'm here now. Show me where I go. I'm here. And it was so powerful for me because I saw she didn't leak energy. So this is all about energy leakage. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. So I am not a fan of science fiction movies. I don't even know if I've ever watched one from beginning to end, although I've tried and I've incidentally dated a lot of men who love sci-fi and I just never could get into it. And so if a friend would call me up and say, "Hey, Bonnie, you want to go to the latest science fiction movie?" My answer would be no. And what I'm aware of is I often would say, "No, I really don't like science fiction." The la la la. I dated a bunch of guys, the whole backstory. And it's either a yes or a no. Either I want to go or I don't want to go. It's either a yes or it's a no. And I can say, no, I don't want to do that. But here's this other movie I'd like to see. But the idea being that I am not draining my own energy, I'm not leaking, and I am not foisting a story, an unnecessary story upon someone else. It's just either yes or no. Yes or no. Do you want Thai food today? Yes or no. And now I'm on a special eating plan. And so I could very easily say, well, let me tell you all the reasons why it's a no, blah, 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 blah. And it's just either yes or no. Thai doesn't work for me. Thai doesn't work for me. But what would work for me is a really good salad. So, so I don't need the backstory. You don't need the backstory. Let your yeses be yes and your no be no. And there's such a power in that. And this is one that I could get better at without a doubt. Okay, the fourth and last one we're covering tonight, and then we'll pick some up later, is the ability to discern between thoughts and emotions and the ability to discern if you're to act based upon your thoughts and emotions or if you're to self-regulate based upon your thoughts and emotions. Now, this requires just a little bit of this requires just a little bit of background and definition of what thought is and what emotion is. So, to be able to discern between what's going on in the mind and the mind when it is not coming from a place of newness is it's a computer storage bank. It's the past. So discerning what are the thoughts that have been there chronically on and on and on, and then the emotions are married to the thoughts. And so some of the research says the thought comes first and the emotion comes second. Other research says emotions come first and then the thought follow them. And yet other research say emotions are first, no, thoughts are first, emotions follow, except if you've had a lot of trauma, then emotions come first and thoughts follow. So that's where the research is. It's all over the place, but the two are together. So, so in the New Thought movement, the idea is if you change the way you're thinking, you change your emotional state as well. So Jesus says, for example, pray for your enemies. So if I'm able to switch in my mind someone from an enemy to a beloved or even to someone else who's neutral, then my thoughts, then my emotions about them change. If I can change my thought, my emotion will also follow suit. So those two go hand in hand. So in Toni's work, she's saying, know what is a thought and know what is emotion, be able to see where they couple. And then when you are triggered, I'm going to use that word, when you're activated in some way, you can go, this is my thought, this is my emotional response. And then you can be clear. Do I need to take action on this? Or is this something I need to handle with inside myself? Okay. And then what I want to add to the discussion is there's a difference between an emotion and a feeling. So, an emotion is tied to a thought, and a feeling is the spiritual experience you have through sensations in the body. It's an intuitive sense. So, it's like when somebody speaks the truth, you might get goosebumps. Okay. That is a feeling. I feel goosebumpy. Another feeling is a welling up of love that isn't associated with a thought, just a welling up of love. Another is, like I said, when I'm sitting in beauty, I talk about this all the time because nature absolutely feeds my soul. So when I'm surrounded by the beauty of nature and I'm taking it into my body temple, I become renewed, and there's no doubt about it, none. And so that is a feeling tone, that is a sensation, that is an exchange that happens that is not related to a thought. It is an innate experience that I have. So we have thought and emotion coupled. We have the feeling tone that rises up, not in response to anything else. It is just when it happens to you, you know it. It is beyond time and space. It is an experience of itself. It's really quite spectacular. That is a feeling. Feeling is a physical sensation brought upon by spirit. Thought and emotion are married to each other. So when I lost the small claims court lawsuit, I was so mad. And I was mad because I felt my case was right and that I had lost it because of unconscious bias around men and women in our culture. Now, that could be true and it could not be true, but that's my experience of it. So I became really aware. Here's the thought I'm having. The thought I'm having is that misogyny exists in the court system. And here's the emotional response to it: anger, rage, disappointment, fury, blah, blah, blah. And I'm able to see, here are the two, and then have the question, is there any action I need to take? Is there any action that's mine to take? Do I need to write about it? Do I need to talk about it? Do I need to forgive? Do I need, and there's a whole list of actions that can be taken, but it is the ability to separate out and discern thought, emotion, and then the awareness of, do I act or not? There are a lot of people who aren't spiritually mature who drive down the street and flip people off. There are people who aren't spiritually mature who scream and yell at a customer service rep on the other end of a phone call. There are people who are emotionally mature who will start fighting, will have a fight in the street because they're not getting their way. Okay, that is emotional immaturity. Emotional maturity comes, and I say it comes through meditation, contemplation, practice, therapy, spiritual advising, awareness. It's an awareness, and it comes when you're able to say, here's my thought, here's the emotion, and then the question, what is mine to do? All right, so we went over 4 spiritual maturity competencies today: living intentionally, the witness of self, the witness of others, of life, and self-observation. The yeses being yes and the no's being no, and then discerning between thoughts, feelings, emotions, and if you are to take action. Wow, that's a lot, and it's so satisfying. I just love, love, love this work, and a shout out to Toni for her capturing it in a usable format. So let us meditate together. So let's go ahead and close our eyes and breathe in and breathe out. And today we're going to sit in silence together. Thank you, God. Thank you, you. So let's just feel where the edge of our body meets the invisible field. And so instead of having attention on our breath today, let's have attention on our skin. That beautiful symbiotic relationship between the seen and the unseen. And let's take a few moments to speak out loud what we're grateful for. And I'm grateful for the power and the presence of spirit. And I'm grateful for nature that nourishes and nurtures me. And as I speak what I'm grateful for, you speak out loud what you're grateful for, and we'll just have a cacophony of gratitude. And I'm grateful for the friends in my inner circle who can see me and know me and reflect back to me the divine presence within. I'm grateful for the creative living, the creative life. And I am grateful for the feeling tone of joy in my body temple. I'm grateful for music and for silence. And so I give thanks for this presence of God that is everywhere presence. It is within me, it is within you. It is between us, it is around us, it is above us, it is below us. I give thanks that this presence of God is oh so powerful as we live from it. I give thanks for the work of Toni that has put in order a way to be able to see and to check off and to embrace and to play with the idea of maturing through and from spirit. I give thanks for this embodied life, how absolutely wonderful it is to be in body. And I speak my word for each one of us who's listening, that if there is a desire for health and wholeness, that that is fulfilled. That the presence of God reveals itself through your body temple and my body temple in a way of complete and total wholeness. And for those who are financially scared, it is my prayer that the divine presence of God as source energy becomes awake and aware to you and through you, that you may see and know the source that you are, and that is manifested from inside out. And for those of us who are looking to experience love, it is my prayer that you tap into the vein of love within, that no matter where you're going and whose presence you're in, that the feeling tone of love is present. For any shame, may that be healed. May it be healed. May it be revealed as the false ghost that it is. For the idea of not enoughness, may it be seen as an idea that is not worthy of your time and intention. And so I call forth the knowingness of matter. I matter. Calling forth the knowingness of value. I am valued. Calling forth the knowingness of esteemed. I have esteem. And so I just give thanks that whatever our desire is, the answer is God. The answer is the good. And so we speak our desire aloud right here and right now together in this chamber of prayer. And for the fulfillment of this prayer and for all of the good of God, I give thanks. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. Thanks, guys. It was wonderful to see you today. I look forward to connecting again next week. Love and blessings.